The text from my mother came through while I was at my desk, designing a logo for a coffee shop chain. Flights are $1,200 each for Dad's Hawaii trip. If you cannot afford it, stay behind. My chest tightened. After years of her calling me financially irresponsible, I wanted to prove I could handle this. I texted back immediately that I could do $1,200 for my ticket. She asked for my card details to book everything together. I sent them. Hours later, I checked my banking app and froze. $8,500 charged to my account. My hands shook as I hit dispute, all on every charge. My phone rang seconds later. It was my brother Derek. I could barely say hello before Derek started yelling. "What the hell are you doing, backing out after you volunteered to pay for everyone?" His voice was so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. I sat there in my small Portland apartment completely confused, staring at my laptop screen where the coffee shop logo still waited for finishing touches. "What are you talking about? I only agreed to pay for my own ticket. $1,200. That is what Mom said." Derek laughed, but it was not a friendly sound. "Oh, come on, Barbara. Do not play dumb now. Mom showed us all the texts where you said you wanted to treat the family since you got that big promotion." I felt dizzy. Big promotion? I got a small raise 3 months ago. I went from $45,000 to $48,000 a year, hardly enough to fund a luxury vacation for 6 people. "Derek, I never said that. I specifically told Mom I could pay $1,200 for myself. That is it." He did not believe me. Mom booked first-class tickets for all of us. You, me, Paige, Jenna, Mom, and Dad. Plus she got the presidential suite at the resort. She said you insisted on making Dad's 60th birthday special. My stomach dropped. First class? Presidential suite? I looked at the charges again on my phone. $6,800 in airline tickets. $2,740 for the resort. The numbers blurred as tears filled my eyes. "Derek, I drive a 10-year-old Honda Civic. I live in a 500-square-foot apartment. I am still paying off student loans. Do you really think I have almost $9,000 just sitting around to spend on a vacation?" There was silence on the other end. Then Derek said, his voice slightly less certain, "Mom said you offered." She showed me texts. "Send me screenshots. Please. Right now." He hesitated. "I will later. I have to go." "But Barbara, if you embarrass this family by canceling everything, there will be consequences." He hung up. I immediately called my mother. The phone rang 4 times before going to voicemail. I tried again. Voicemail. I sent a text asking her to call me immediately. Her response came 2 minutes later. "If you embarrass this family by canceling, you are no longer welcome in it." My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat. I pulled up my text history with my mother, scrolling back 2 weeks to when we had discussed the trip. There it was in plain text. I had written, "I can do $1,200 for my ticket." Nothing about paying for everyone. Nothing about first class or presidential suites or treating anyone. I called my credit card company. The automated system told me my disputes were processing and I would receive a decision within 7 to 10 business days. I hung up and stared at my phone as notifications started flooding in. The family group chat, the one that included Derek, his wife Paige, my younger sister Jenna, and my father Richard, suddenly came alive. Jenna wrote, "Why are you doing this to Dad on his birthday?" Then Paige, "I knew you were jealous of our family, but this is low." My father's message was the one that hurt most. "Call your mother and apologize. Fix this." I typed out a long explanation in the group chat, my fingers shaking. I explained exactly what I had agreed to, what I had actually said, what the charges were. I hit send and watched the 3 dots appear and disappear as people read it. No one responded. I felt like I was losing my mind. Was I crazy? Had I somehow agreed to this and forgotten? No. I had the texts. I had proof. but my entire family believed my mother over me. I called my best friend Taylor. She answered on the second ring, and I started crying before I could even explain what happened. She listened to the whole story, occasionally making shocked sounds. When I finished, Taylor was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that made everything click into place. "Barbara, your mom has done this before. Remember 3 years ago when she borrowed $5,000 from you for emergency surgery? And it turned out to be a cosmetic procedure she wanted, and she never paid you back?" The memory hit me like a truck. I had forgotten about that, or maybe I had trained myself not to think about it. "And 2 years ago," Taylor continued, "she guilt-tripped you into buying Christmas gifts for your entire extended family. You spent over $2,000 on people you barely know." I realized Taylor was right. This was not a misunderstanding. This was a pattern. My mother had been financially manipulating me for years, and I had let her because I desperately wanted her approval, wanted to be seen as a good daughter, wanted to belong in my own family. My phone buzzed. An email from my credit card company. I opened it with trembling hands. "Your disputes have been approved. Refunds will be processed within 3 to 5 business days." Relief and terror hit me simultaneously. The money would come back, but the family war was just beginning. I copied the email and sent it to the family group chat along with another explanation. Before anyone could respond, my phone rang. My mother. I stared at my mother's name on the screen for 3 rings before I found the courage to answer. Her voice was ice cold. "You have no idea what you have just done." "Mom, I only agreed to pay for my own ticket. I have the texts to prove it." She laughed, sharp and cruel. "Oh, Barbara, always so dramatic. I have proof, too. I recorded our phone conversation 2 weeks ago, where you said, 'Whatever you need for Dad's birthday, I am happy to help.' That is a verbal contract." My mind raced back to that conversation. I had been at work, half distracted, and yes, I had said something like that. But I had been talking about helping plan the party, maybe making a photo slideshow or decorating, not funding an entire luxury vacation. "Mom, that is not what I meant, and you know it. What I know is that you made a promise, and now you are backing out like you always do. You are selfish, Barbara. You have always been selfish." I felt the familiar guilt rising, the old pattern of backing down and apologizing even when I had done nothing wrong. But something was different this time. Maybe it was Taylor's words echoing in my head. Maybe it was seeing the actual dollar amount of what my mother had tried to steal from me. Maybe I was just finally tired. I am not paying for a trip I did not agree to fund. I am sorry if there was a miscommunication, but this is not my responsibility. My mother's voice got dangerously quiet. "I will take you to small claims court for breach of verbal contract. I have already spoken with your cousin Martin. He is a lawyer, remember? He is willing to represent me." My stomach clenched. Cousin Martin was indeed a lawyer, and he had always taken my mother's side in family disputes. "And another thing," she continued, "I will report you to the credit bureaus as a fraud risk. I will make sure everyone knows what kind of person you really are. Ungrateful after everything I have done for you. Do you know how much I have spent on you over the years?" Here it comes, I thought. The itemized list of parental investments she used as emotional currency. "I paid for your college application fees. I bought you your first car. I have given you gifts, taken you on family trips, fed and clothed you for 18 years. You owe me at least $15,000 if we are keeping track. That car was 11 years old when you gave it to me 9 years ago. And college application fees were maybe $500 total. And you are my mother. You chose to have children. That is not a debt I need to repay." The words came out stronger than I expected. There was silence on the other end of the line. "If you do not drop those disputes and pay what you owe," my mother finally said, her voice shaking with rage, "I will make sure everyone in this family and this town knows exactly what kind of daughter you are. You will be dead to us." She hung up. I sat in my apartment, hands shaking, and realized I was at war with my own mother. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a Facebook message from Paige, Derek's wife. The message was short. "Call me. Not on family phone. Use my work number." Confused but curious, I dialed the number Paige had sent. She answered quietly, like she was hiding somewhere. "I only have a few minutes before Derek gets back." "Barbara, I believe you." Relief flooded through me. Why? Because this is not the first time Patricia has done something like this. 2 years ago, she tried to charge a so-called family emergency to Derek's card. It was almost $4,000. Turned out she was furniture shopping. Derek caught it early and stopped it. But your mom told everyone he was being cheap and cruel. He ended up paying for half of it just to keep the peace. Why did not anyone tell me? Because Derek is terrified of being cut off from the family. Your mom holds that over everyone's head. You step out of line, you are out. Forever. I felt sick. How many times had this happened? How many family members had my mother manipulated and stolen from? Paige continued, her voice even quieter. Document everything, Barbara. Every text, every call, every email. And do not back down. Someone needs to stop her. And right now that someone is you. She had to go, said Derek was pulling into the driveway. I thanked her and hung up, then immediately started taking screenshots of everything. Text conversations, bank statements, credit card charges, emails. I created a folder on my laptop labeled Evidence and saved everything there. I spent 2 hours researching verbal contracts in Oregon. What I found gave me hope. Verbal contracts for amounts over a certain threshold require clear, specific terms. Both parties need to understand and agree to the exact terms. A vague statement like "whatever you need," "I am happy to help" would never hold up, especially without discussion of specific dollar amounts or services. I felt slightly better until another email arrived. The subject line read, "Final warning." It was from my mother, but the email was formatted like a legal document. Cousin Martin had apparently written a demand letter. The letter claimed I had entered into a verbal contract with my mother to fund a family vacation. It demanded $8,500 within 7 days. It threatened legal action and specifically mentioned damage to my reputation and credit if I did not comply. Fear spiked through me. I could not afford a lawyer. I worked as a graphic designer for a small firm. After rent, student loans, car insurance, and basic living expenses, I had maybe $300 left over each month, which I tried to save. I called Taylor again. She suggested a free legal clinic at the community center downtown. I made an appointment for the next morning and tried to sleep, but I kept seeing that number. $8,500. Almost a quarter of my annual salary. The next morning I was so anxious I could barely drink my coffee. But I made it to the legal clinic on time. A volunteer lawyer named Samantha reviewed my documentation. She was maybe in her 40s, sharp eyes behind stylish glasses, and she made me feel immediately at ease. After 20 minutes of reviewing everything, she looked up at me. "This is not a strong case against you. In fact, you have a very strong case of fraud against your mother." Hope bloomed in my chest. "Really?" Samantha nodded and pulled up my credit card statements. "But I want you to look at something else. Do you recognize all of these charges?" She pointed to several small transactions I had not noticed before. $49 to an online boutique, $75 to a spa in Salem, $120 to a restaurant I had never been to. All in my mother's hometown, all on dates when I knew she was shopping or going out. My blood went cold. "Mom has been using my card?" "For months," Samantha said gently. "These add up to about $1,300. Barbara, your mother has been committing credit card fraud against you for at least 6 months, probably longer." I felt like I might throw up. This was not a misunderstanding or a manipulative guilt trip. This was actual, criminal fraud. Samantha explained my options. I could file a police report for identity theft and fraud. The credit card company would investigate. My mother could face criminal charges. But she is my mother, I whispered. Samantha leaned forward, her expression kind but firm. I have seen this pattern many times. Financial abusers count on their victims' reluctance to protect themselves. They know you love them. They know you will feel guilty. They use that against you. She helped me draft a response to Cousin Martin's demand letter. The response was professional and clear. It stated that no valid contract existed, that I would not be paying any amount, and that further harassment would result in legal action of my own. Samantha also strongly suggested I file a police report. I left the clinic feeling both empowered and terrified. I sat in my car for 10 minutes, gripping the steering wheel, trying to decide what to do. Finally, I drove home. When I pulled into my apartment complex parking lot, I saw someone sitting on the steps leading to my door. My father. Richard looked tired and sad in a way I had never seen before. He was 60 years old, recently retired from teaching high school English, and the lines on his face seemed deeper than I remembered. I walked up slowly, my heart pounding. "Dad?" He stood up heavily. "Can we talk inside?" We went into my apartment. I made tea that neither of us drank. We sat on my second-hand couch, and for a long moment, he just stared at his hands. "Your mother did not tell me the truth about what happened. Jenna called me last night, told me everything. I confronted Patricia this morning. I held my breath. She denied it at first. Then she got defensive. Then she finally admitted she charged your card without your full permission. But she claims she thought you understood. She says she was trying to do something nice for the family." I started to argue, but Dad held up his hand. "I do not believe her, Barbara. I know Patricia. I have been married to her for 35 years. I know when she is lying." He looked at me, and his eyes were red like he had been crying. "I should have protected you. I am so sorry." Those words broke something open in me. I started crying, really crying, for the first time since this whole nightmare started. Dad moved closer and hugged me while I sobbed into his shoulder. When I calmed down, he told me more. He had found credit card statements hidden in Patricia's closet. She owed nearly $40,000 across multiple cards. Most of the charges were shopping, restaurants, things they did not need. "I thought our finances were fine," he said, his voice hollow. "I thought we were saving for retirement. But she has been lying to me about money for years. He told me he was not going to bail her out of this. He was not going to make me pay for anything. He would pay for his own and Patricia's flights if the trip happened at all, which he doubted. Right now," he said, "he was not even sure his marriage could survive this." That shocked me more than anything. My parents had been married my entire life plus 10 years before I was born. I could not imagine them apart. Dad left after making me promise to keep the disputes in place and to not let Patricia pressure me. He hugged me again at the door and said something I would never forget. Love does not mean accepting abuse. That evening, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered cautiously. It was Cousin Martin. He sounded embarrassed and apologetic. "Barbara, I owe you an apology. Your mother lied to me about what happened. She told me you had backed out of a promised payment out of spite. I wrote that letter based on her story. Your brother called me today with questions, and I did some more digging. There is no legal basis for her claim. I am withdrawing as her representative." I thanked him, feeling a small sense of vindication. But that night, the text from my mother started. First apologetic. "I made a mistake. I am sorry. Please forgive me." Then manipulative. "I am your mother. I gave you life. You owe me." Then threatening. "You will regret destroying this family." Then desperate. "I am in trouble. I need help. Please." I did not respond to any of them. I took screenshots of all of them. And finally, hands shaking, I blocked my mother's number. I felt both relieved and heartbroken. 3 days passed in a strange fog. I went to work, came home, talked to Taylor, went to therapy for the first time. My therapist, a calm woman named Dr. Harper, helped me start processing years of emotional manipulation I had not even recognized as abuse. The family trip to Hawaii was officially canceled. My father had texted the group chat to let everyone know. Derek had apologized to me, finally, admitting he should have questioned my mother's story from the beginning. Jenna had been staying with a friend, avoiding home entirely. I had not heard from my mother since I blocked her number, and I was grateful for the silence. Work was busy, which helped distract me. I was finishing up the coffee shop logo project and starting designs for a local brewery. My boss, Howard, had been understanding about the family situation without prying for details. I was in a meeting on Thursday afternoon when our receptionist, Grace, knocked on the conference room door. She looked panicked. "Barbara, you have a visitor who will not leave." My stomach dropped. I excused myself from the meeting with Howard and 2 clients and walked to the lobby. My mother was there. Patricia was dressed up, makeup carefully applied, hair styled. But her eyes had a wild quality that frightened me. Her voice carried through the whole office, loud enough for all 10 employees to hear. "There you are. After everything I have done for you, you treat me like this?" I kept my voice low and calm. "You need to leave." She got louder. "I raised you. I sacrificed everything for you. And you repay me by stealing from me?" My coworkers were watching now, trying to pretend they were not. I felt my face burning with humiliation. "I am asking you to leave, or I will call security. I am your mother. You cannot throw me out like garbage." She sat down in one of the lobby chairs, crossing her arms. "I am not leaving until you fix what you broke." Howard appeared beside me. He was 55, balding, usually gentle, but his voice was firm. "Ma'am, you need to leave this office immediately." Patricia turned her fury on him. "Who are you? This is between me and my daughter. I am her employer, and this is private property. Leave now, please." Patricia refused. She actually refused to leave, sitting in that chair like a stubborn child. Howard called building security. The guard Tom arrived and asked Patricia to leave. She became more theatrical, suddenly claiming chest pains and sobbing. Tom, being cautious, called paramedics. An ambulance arrived, and with it, police officers, which was standard protocol for medical calls. By this point, I wanted to disappear into the floor. One officer, whose name tag read Brooks, asked what was happening. Patricia immediately tried to claim I had stolen from her. I pulled out my phone and showed Officer Brooks the text messages, the charges, the documentation of everything. His expression changed as he reviewed the evidence. He told Patricia she needed to leave, or she would be arrested for trespassing. The paramedics confirmed she was not having a medical emergency. Patricia finally left, but not before shouting back at me, "You are dead to me!" I stood in the lobby of my workplace, shaking and mortified, while my coworkers tried not to stare. Howard put a hand on my shoulder. "My office, please." I followed him, certain I was about to be fired for bringing family drama into the workplace. I sat down across from his desk and started apologizing. He stopped me. "You have nothing to apologize for." He leaned back in his chair and looked at me for a long moment. My mother did something similar to me when I was 32. I looked up, surprised. Howard told me his story. His mother had stolen his identity, opened multiple credit cards in his name, and destroyed his credit. He had to prosecute her to fix it. She never spoke to him again. He had made peace with it because staying in that toxic relationship was killing him. "Some parents see their children as extensions of themselves," he said, "as resources to use rather than people to love. Setting boundaries with people like that feels impossible because they have trained you since birth to prioritize their needs over your own." He told me to take the rest of the day off, paid. He said if I needed legal help, he knew people who could work with my budget. I started crying from relief and gratitude. Howard got me water and tissues and gave me time to compose myself. When I went back to my desk to get my things, my coworker Stephanie approached carefully. She was 26, a junior designer, and usually pretty quiet. She said softly, "My dad did something like that to my sister. You are brave for standing up to her." Another coworker, Marcus, nodded from his desk. "Family stuff is hardest. You are handling it right." I realized I had more support than I thought. I drove home feeling emotionally exhausted, but validated. When I got to my apartment, there was an envelope taped to my door. Inside was a handwritten letter from my mother. 5 pages, rambling and incoherent in places. It alternated between apologizing and blaming me. She claimed I had made her act this way. She said my father was leaving her and it was my fault. She said she would lose the house and it was my fault. But she also said she loved me and wanted to reconcile. It ended with, "Please call me. I am still your mother." I read it twice, feeling a complicated mix of sadness and anger. I photographed every page and sent them to Samantha from the legal clinic. She texted back within an hour. "This is evidence of harassment. Keep it. Consider a restraining order." That evening, my father called. His voice was heavy. "I moved out today. I am staying with my friend Paul for now. Your mother is having a breakdown, but I cannot help her anymore. I enabled her behavior for too long by making excuses and smoothing things over. She needs professional help I cannot provide." We talked for over an hour about family patterns, guilt, obligation, and love. He said something that stuck with me. Love does not mean accepting abuse. Real love includes accountability. After we hung up, I sat in my quiet apartment and realized I was at a turning point. I could keep trying to manage my mother's emotions and behavior, keep hoping she would change, keep sacrificing my own well-being for the illusion of family peace. Or I could fully stand up for myself, whatever the consequences. I made my decision. I would protect myself completely. No more guilt. No more hoping. No more accepting abuse in the name of love. It felt scary and sad, but also freeing. The next morning, I called the credit bureau to freeze my credit as a precaution. The representative walked me through the process and then asked me to verify all accounts currently reporting in my name. She listed several accounts I recognized: my car loan, my student loans, my regular credit card. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. "And your Capital One account opened in 2019 with a current balance of $12,400. I do not have a Capital One card." There was a pause. "It shows here, ma'am. Opened 6 years ago when you would have been 22. Billing address is in Salem, Oregon." 22. I had been living at home briefly that year, between apartments when my lease ended, and my new place was not ready yet. 3 months in my childhood bedroom. My mother had access to all my documents. "I need my full credit report sent to me immediately." The representative expedited it. When I got it an hour later and opened the detailed report, I felt sick. The Capital One card had been opened with my information, but sent to my parents' address in Salem. There were 6 years of charges on it. Restaurants, clothing stores, home goods, jewelry, minimum payments had been made regularly, which is why I had never known about it. The account was in good standing, but the balance was enormous. My mother had not just stolen from me impulsively last week. She had been systematically defrauding me for 6 years. I called Samantha immediately. She answered on the second ring, and I could barely get the words out. When I finished explaining, she was quiet for a moment. "Barbara, this is identity theft. This is a serious crime. You need to file a police report today." But she is my mother. I know. And I know that makes this incredibly hard. But she has been stealing your identity and ruining your financial future for years. If you do not stop this now, it will never stop. I drove to the police station feeling numb. I filed a formal report for identity theft and credit card fraud. I provided all my documentation. The officer taking my report was professional and sympathetic. He explained that a detective would be assigned to investigate. My mother would be contacted and potentially arrested depending on the evidence. I walked out of the police station having just reported my own mother for a crime. The surreal feeling followed me home, where I immediately called Taylor. She came over that evening with wine and Thai food, and we talked through everything. "You did not do this to her," Taylor reminded me. "She did this to herself. You are just refusing to be a victim anymore." Over the next 2 days, things moved quickly. The credit card company investigating the Capital One fraud confirmed I had not opened the account. They closed it and started the process of removing it from my credit report. My mother would be held responsible for the debt. Then my father called, his voice shaking. "Patricia was arrested this morning." I gripped my phone. "What?" "A detective came to the house with a warrant. She was charged with identity theft and fraud. Bail is set at $10,000. He paused. "I am not bailing her out." I felt a strange mix of vindication and guilt. Part of me felt like I had won, like justice was finally happening. Part of me felt like a terrible daughter who had destroyed her own mother. Derek called next. His voice was subdued. "I cannot believe it went this far." But then he added, "You did the right thing. This needed to stop." He told me our Aunt Caroline had eventually posted bail. Patricia was out but facing serious charges. The family gossip was spreading fast. Extended family members were divided. Some blamed me for destroying the family. Others were supportive, and several reached out privately to share their own stories of financial manipulation by Patricia over the years. I learned my mother had a decades-long pattern of borrowing money and never repaying it, guilt-tripping people into paying for things, making financial promises she never kept. But identity theft crossed a line even the most forgiving relatives could not excuse. A week later, my mother's lawyer contacted Samantha. Patricia wanted to make a deal. She would plead guilty to a reduced charge in exchange for no jail time. She would pay full restitution, attend mandatory financial counseling, and accept probation. The prosecutor was willing to accept the deal if I agreed. I had to decide. Part of me wanted maximum punishment, but I talked it through with my therapist and realized that consequences were happening regardless. Criminal record, restitution, counseling, probation. My mother would face the results of her actions. I did not need vengeance. I needed safety and closure. I agreed to the plea deal with specific conditions. Patricia had to pay restitution for all fraudulent charges, approximately $22,000 total, 5 years probation. A no-contact order preventing her from contacting me. Mandatory financial counseling and therapy. My mother accepted the deal. The court date was set for 2 weeks later. I attended with my father and Jenna. Derek and Paige came too, showing their support. Patricia looked small and defeated in the courtroom. Nothing like the commanding, manipulative woman I had known my whole life. The judge was stern, explaining the seriousness of identity theft and how it destroys families. Patricia pleaded guilty in a quiet voice. The judge accepted the plea and ordered all conditions. As Patricia was led out of the courtroom, she glanced at me. She looked like she wanted to say something, but the no-contact order prevented it. Outside the courthouse, my father hugged me tight. "I am proud of you for standing up for yourself." Jenna held my hand. Derek and Paige stood with us. The family was different now, smaller, reconfigured. But for the first time in my life, it felt honest. 6 months passed. My life stabilized in ways I had not expected. My credit was fully repaired. All the fraudulent accounts removed. My savings account, which had been drained to dangerously low levels, was slowly rebuilding. Work was going well. Howard had given me a small raise after learning the full extent of what I had been dealing with, and I had been promoted to senior designer. I had been consistent with therapy. Dr. Harper helped me process not just the recent events, but years of emotional manipulation I had internalized as normal. I was learning about family systems, about enmeshment, about how financial abuse often goes hand in hand with emotional control. I was learning to set boundaries without guilt. I had started dating someone. His name was Chris. He was 31, taught fifth grade at an elementary school across town, and I had met him through Taylor's partner. Chris knew the whole story of what had happened with my mother. He was patient and supportive, never pushing, always checking in. It felt different from past relationships, healthier, calmer. My family relationships had healed too, in unexpected ways. My father and mother's divorce was finalized 3 months after the courthouse. Richard had bought a small 2-bedroom condo and seemed lighter than I had seen him in years. We had dinner together every week, sometimes just the two of us, sometimes with Jenna, Derek, and Paige joining. Derek had apologized properly, not just a quick text, but a real conversation where he acknowledged he should have questioned my mother earlier instead of blindly believing her. He and Paige had me over for game nights regularly. My relationship with my brother was better than it had been in years. Jenna had moved into an apartment with a roommate, finishing her degree in social work. We talked almost daily, closer than we had ever been. She told me that watching me stand up to our mother had given her permission to set her own boundaries, to stop trying to earn love through compliance. Patricia had been absent, which was a relief. The no-contact order was still in place. I heard through my father that she had completed financial counseling and was still attending therapy. She was working 2 part-time jobs to pay restitution. She lived with Aunt Caroline. I tried not to think about her much, focusing instead on building my own life. One evening in late September, I came home from a great date with Chris to find an official-looking envelope in my mailbox. My heart sank, worried it was some new legal problem. I opened it carefully. Inside was a letter from Patricia's therapist, a Dr. Susan Chen. The letter explained that Patricia had given permission for this contact, despite the no-contact order working through legal channels. Dr. Chen wrote that Patricia had done significant therapeutic work over the past 6 months. She had been diagnosed with untreated anxiety disorder and narcissistic personality traits. She was on medication and attending weekly therapy. Patricia had written a letter to me, Dr. Chen explained. She had reviewed it and believed it was genuine, not manipulative. However, she respected the no-contact order completely. She would only send Patricia's letter if I explicitly consented to receive it. I stared at the therapist's letter for a long time. Part of me was curious. Part of me was afraid this was just another manipulation. I carried the letter around for 3 days, unsure what to do. In my next therapy session, I brought it up to Dr. Harper. She reminded me that I could read a letter without responding. I could set terms. I was in control of this situation. I decided I would read it. I sent a brief email to Dr. Chen consenting to receive the letter. It arrived a week later. I waited until Saturday morning when I felt emotionally strong. I made tea, sat in my favorite chair by the window, and opened the envelope. The letter was 5 pages in my mother's handwriting. It started, "Dear Barbara, I do not expect forgiveness, and I am not asking for it." That surprised me. Every other communication from my mother had demanded something from me. This one did not. She wrote about her childhood. Her own mother had been financially abusive and manipulative. Patricia had learned that money equaled love and control. She had carried those patterns into her own parenting without ever examining them. She wrote about untreated anxiety about finances that made her feel powerless. She talked about how she had tried to control what she could, using her children, especially me, to feel powerful. "I see now I was abusing you," she wrote. "I stole from you. I used guilt to manipulate you. I tried to control you through money and emotional terrorism. I was wrong. There is no excuse for what I did." She went through specific incidents. The $5,000 loan for cosmetic surgery she had called an emergency. Making me buy Christmas gifts for extended family. The Hawaii trip and credit card fraud. The Capital One card she had opened in my name. She took full responsibility for each one. She explained she had been in intensive cognitive behavioral therapy, learning about her disorders, learning healthy coping mechanisms. She was on medication for anxiety. She was working 2 jobs to pay back every penny she stole. Not because anyone was making her, but because it was right. You deserved a mother who protected you, not one who used you, she wrote. You deserve to feel safe and loved unconditionally. I failed you in every way a mother can fail. The letter did not ask for reconciliation. It did not ask me to call or visit or forgive. It simply said, I am sorry. I am getting help. I am trying to be better, not for you, but because it is right. You owe me nothing. I owe you everything. I hope someday you can have peace about what happened, even if I am not part of your life. I read the letter 3 times. I cried, but they were not entirely sad tears. They were tears of release. This was what I had needed. Real accountability. Recognition of harm. No demands. Just truth. I called my father and read him the letter. He was quiet for a long moment. She has been different, he finally said. I did not want to tell you in case it did not last. But she has been consistent, humble, working hard, going to therapy every week without complaint. He said he still thought the divorce was the right choice. Their relationship had been too damaged for too long. But he was glad Patricia was getting help. I talked to Dr. Harper about the letter in our next session. She asked what I wanted to do with it. I realized I did not want a relationship with Patricia. Maybe not ever. But I wanted to acknowledge the apology. I wrote a brief response. I received your letter. I appreciate your honesty and accountability. I need continued time and space. I wish you well in your healing. Barbara. I sent it through the lawyers. It felt right. Not forgiving and forgetting, but acknowledging progress while maintaining boundaries. Months continued passing. I kept thriving. I got another promotion at work, this time to lead designer with actual creative director responsibilities. My relationship with Chris deepened. We moved in together after a year of dating, finding a sunny 2-bedroom apartment with a little balcony where we had coffee every morning. 1 year after standing in that courtroom, I had a moment of clarity. I was happy, genuinely, deeply happy. Not in spite of what happened, but having grown through it. Standing up to Patricia had freed me from more than just her abuse. It freed me from the pattern of people-pleasing that had controlled my whole life. I had boundaries now in all my relationships. I spoke up when something felt wrong. I did not sacrifice my well-being for anyone's comfort. I was healthier in every possible way. 2 years after the initial credit card fraud, my life looked completely different. Chris and I got engaged on a camping trip to Crater Lake. The proposal was simple and perfect, just the 2 of us and the incredible blue water and the promise of building a life together. We started planning a small wedding for the following spring. The guest list included my father, Jenna and her boyfriend Luke, Derek and Paige, my closest friends including Taylor, Chris's family, and a handful of other important people. Patricia was not on the list. I was at peace with that choice. It was not about punishment. It was about protecting the joy of the day. Some people in my extended family did not understand, but I had learned that I did not need everyone to understand my boundaries. I just needed to maintain them. Patricia had paid the full restitution a year ago. She had sent a card congratulating me on my engagement, delivered through the lawyers. The message was simple. I am happy for you. I did not respond, but I appreciated that she respected the boundary. Work continued going well. Howard had essentially made me his second-in-command at the firm. I was mentoring younger designers, leading client meetings, making strategic decisions about the direction of projects. I loved my job. One afternoon, I was having coffee with one of our newer designers, Ashley, who was 24 and reminded me a lot of my younger self. She had been quiet lately, and I asked if everything was okay. She hesitated, then admitted her mother was financially controlling, making her feel guilty about her salary, demanding to know what she spent money on, guilting her into paying for family expenses she could not afford. I saw myself 2 years ago in her anxious expression. I shared my story with her. Not every detail, but enough. I told her that you cannot set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm, even if that person is family. Love does not require self-destruction, I said. Real relationships have boundaries and respect and reciprocity. When someone repeatedly violates boundaries, you have to protect yourself. But she is my mom, Ashley said, tears in her eyes. I owe her. You owe her respect, I told her. You do not owe her your financial security or your emotional health. The conversation planted a seed for Ashley. Watching her process this reminded me how far I had come. I could help others now. That felt powerful. That evening was one of our regular family dinners at my father's condo. Richard, Jenna, and Luke, Derek, and Paige, Chris and me. 7 of us around the table, laughing, sharing food, at ease with each other. At one point, my father said something that made everyone pause. This family is better now than it was. Everyone nodded. The family was smaller, but it was healthier. Honest instead of performative. Real instead of forced. Jenna smiled at me. Barbara, standing up, changed everything for all of us. You showed us we could say no. We could have boundaries. We could choose our own well-being. Derek agreed. After you, I stopped lending money to relatives who never paid back. I stopped trying to manage everyone's feelings. I realized my boundary setting had given everyone permission. Jenna had left a toxic job where her boss constantly took advantage of her. Derek had stepped back from extended family drama. Richard had started living authentically after years of keeping peace at his own expense. There were ripple effects from my choice to protect myself. Later, Chris and I walked home through the cool evening air, holding hands. He asked, "Do you regret how it all happened?" I thought carefully. I regret that it was necessary. I wish my mother had been different. I wish our family had been healthier from the start. But I do not regret standing up for myself. That choice saved my life. Chris squeezed my hand, and we walked in comfortable silence. Back home, I found myself reflecting on who I had been 2 years ago compared to who I was now. 2 years ago, I was desperate for family approval, willing to bankrupt myself emotionally and financially for the illusion of belonging. I thought love meant sacrifice and suffering. I thought good daughters never said no. Now I knew better. I knew my worth. I protected my peace. I understood that healthy relationships enhance your life. They do not diminish it. I had learned that family is not just about blood. It is about who shows up with respect and love. It is about who celebrates your boundaries instead of violating them. I opened my journal, something Dr. Harper had encouraged me to keep. I wrote, I learned that protecting yourself is not selfish. It is necessary. I learned that sometimes love means distance. I learned that you teach people how to treat you by what you accept. I learned that financial abuse is real abuse, just as damaging as any other kind. I learned that saying no is a complete sentence. I learned that guilt is not the same as responsibility. I learned that family dysfunction can span generations until someone breaks the cycle. I learned I am strong enough to be that someone. My final entry that night read, My mother stole from me financially and emotionally, but in standing up to her, I found myself. I found my voice. I found my strength. I built the family I deserved by drawing firm boundaries around the family I was born into. Not everyone understands. Some people still think I should have just paid the money, kept the peace, forgiven, and moved on. But those people have never had to choose between their own survival and someone else's comfort. I chose myself, and I would make that choice again, every single time. The wedding happened on a perfect April morning. The ceremony was in a small botanical garden, just 30 people who truly loved and supported us. My father walked me down the aisle. Jenna was my maid of honor. Derek did a reading. Everything felt right. There was a moment during the reception when I looked around at everyone there and felt overwhelming gratitude. These were people who respected boundaries, who showed up consistently, who loved without conditions or manipulation. This was what family was supposed to feel like. Chris and I honeymooned in Colorado, hiking and exploring small mountain towns. When we returned, life settled into a beautiful routine. Work, home, friends, family dinners, building our life together piece by piece. 3 months after the wedding, something unexpected happened at work. Ashley, the young designer I had talked to about boundaries, asked to meet with me privately. She told me she had confronted her mother about the financial control. It had been hard, but she had done it. She had set clear boundaries about money and stopped accepting guilt as a reason to hand over her paycheck. "Thank you for showing me it was possible," she said. I felt something shift in that moment. The pain I had gone through had purpose beyond just my own healing. I could help others recognize and escape similar patterns. That felt meaningful. I started thinking about ways to talk about financial abuse more openly. I wrote an article for a local online magazine about my experience, keeping some details vague but making the patterns clear. The response was overwhelming. Dozens of people reached out sharing their own stories. Many thanked me for putting words to something they had experienced but never named. My father read the article and called me, "I am so proud of the woman you have become, not despite what happened, but because of how you handled it." 6 months later, I got a letter from Patricia's therapist again. Patricia had completed her probation successfully. She had paid all restitution. She was working full-time now as an office administrator, living independently. She was still in therapy, though less frequently. Dr. Chen wanted me to know that Patricia had done the work and sustained the changes. She was not asking to reconnect, just wanted me to know. I appreciated the update. I felt genuine happiness that Patricia had gotten help and changed her life. But I still did not want a relationship. Maybe someday that would change. Maybe it would not. Either way was okay. Chris and I started talking about buying a house. We looked at small places in Portland neighborhoods we loved, imagining our future. A garden where we could grow vegetables. A spare room for guests, or maybe eventually a child. A life built on honesty and mutual respect and love that felt safe. One evening, I was working late at the office when Howard stopped by my desk. He told me he was thinking about semi-retiring in a few years. He wanted to know if I would be interested in eventually taking over the firm. I was shocked and honored. Howard had given me so much more than just a job. He had shown me that authority figures could be kind, that workplaces could be supportive, that people in power could use it to lift others up instead of controlling them. A year later, I was putting together a portfolio for a major client presentation when I realized something. I had not thought about my mother in weeks. Not because I was avoiding the thoughts, but because I had genuinely healed. The pain that once consumed me had transformed into wisdom. The betrayal that once defined me had become a chapter in my story, not the whole book. I thought about all the things I had learned through this experience, that you cannot sacrifice your well-being for someone else's comfort, even family. That real love respects boundaries and does not demand self-destruction as proof of devotion. That financial abuse is real and serious and deserves to be treated as such. That protecting yourself is not betrayal. That sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away. That breaking generational patterns takes courage but creates freedom. I learned that my worth is not determined by who stays in my life, but by how I honor myself when others will not. Late one night, Chris already asleep, I sat at our kitchen table with a cup of tea and my journal. I wrote one final entry about this whole experience. 2.5 years ago, I was drowning in family dysfunction and did not even know it. I thought the problem was that I was not good enough, not grateful enough, not generous enough. I thought if I just tried harder, gave more, sacrificed more, my mother would finally love me the way I needed to be loved. I was wrong. The problem was never me. The problem was a system of abuse and manipulation I had been born into and had never questioned. Standing up for myself felt like the hardest thing I had ever done. It felt like I was destroying my family. But I was not destroying anything. I was revealing what was already broken. I was refusing to pretend dysfunction was normal. I was choosing survival over compliance. And yes, it cost me. It cost me a relationship with my mother. It cost me some extended family relationships. It cost me the fantasy of the perfect, intact family I had always wanted. But what I gained was infinitely more valuable. I gained myself. I gained peace. I gained the ability to build real, healthy relationships based on mutual respect instead of obligation and fear. I gained freedom. If I could go back and tell that version of myself standing in her apartment, staring at $8,500 in fraudulent charges, feeling panicked and confused and scared, I would tell her this. You are about to go through something incredibly hard. You are going to doubt yourself. You are going to feel guilty. People you love are going to blame you. You are going to wonder if standing up for yourself is worth it. It is. It is worth it 1,000 times over. You will survive this. You will heal. You will thrive. And someday, you will help others do the same. Your pain will have purpose. Your courage will create ripple effects you cannot even imagine yet. Keep going. Protect yourself. Set those boundaries. File those reports. Stand your ground. Future you is waiting on the other side of this, and she is strong and happy and free. I closed the journal and looked around our little home. The life Chris and I had built together. The family I had chosen and cultivated. The career I loved. The peace I felt. This was what it looked like on the other side of standing up for yourself. It was beautiful. I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family members who did not respect them? Have you ever had to choose between your own well-being and someone else's comfort? How did you handle it? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like. It helps more people find these stories and feel less alone in their own struggles. And if you have not already, please subscribe to this channel. I share stories like this regularly. Stories about finding strength, setting boundaries, and choosing yourself even when it feels impossible. Share this with someone who might need to hear it. Maybe someone who is struggling with a difficult family situation. Maybe someone who needs permission to protect themselves. Your share could be exactly what someone needs to find their own courage. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I know it was long, but these experiences cannot be simplified. Healing is not linear, and growth takes time. I hope my journey helps you in yours. Remember, you deserve relationships that respect your boundaries. You deserve to protect your peace. You deserve to choose yourself. Take care of yourselves out there. Be kind to yourselves. And never forget that love does not require self-destruction.